South African businesses spend billions on electricity every year. But what if the biggest opportunity isn't producing more energy? It's using less of it.
Energy efficiency is what we call the first fuel.
The Department of Electricity and Energy is driving a new national movement, not about compliance, not about red tape, about helping businesses save money.
We don't want to terrorize, we want to incentivize.
From shopping centers to factories to office towers, discover how energy efficiency is becoming South Africa's newest competitive advantage.
The cost savings will be worth it.
Today we are joined by Deputy Minister of Energy and Electricity, talking to us about an important matter of saving energy as part of the plans to ensure that our energy mix is efficient, and it can really help us to ensure that we are energy secure in the country. Deputy Minister Maré, thank you for joining BRICS Africa channel.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's always lovely chatting to you.
Thank you. Please tell me, why did the department decide to make this issue quite a strategic issue for our energy use in South Africa?
Well, as a country that's come out of a really constrained time in terms of the energy and that availability, one of the things that people don't realize is that energy efficiency is what we call the first fuel. So energy efficiency means that you have energy that you don't have to make because you're saving energy. So we're trying to drive over and above the sort of energy availability, we're trying to drive this energy efficiency strategy so that we make sure that people become more conscious of the energy that they're using, and they understand as well how much money they can save just by incorporating energy efficient practices into what they into their daily lives. And it's not just a South African initiative. Last year at G20 we also launched the African Energy Efficiency Fund. It's a platform for people to get funding to do energy efficiency initiatives. So that facility was launched in December at the AU Energy Efficiency Conference. So this is a conversation that's happening worldwide. It's not just a South African strategy. And so the department's obviously focused. They've been doing it for a number of years. We're just driving it more visibly now than it's been done in the past.
And I note that you are targeting municipalities to use it part of their grant to ensure that larger buildings in their localities are really using ways and means that they can save energy.
So there are a number of sort of elements to the energy efficiency strategy. So it's an energy efficiency and demand side management strategy. So the idea is that not only are we saving electricity, but we're also making sure that we are finding ways to manage the electricity that we have. So we've got a grant that goes to municipalities that allows them to then retrofit things like their lighting and make sure that they can find ways to save energy within the municipality. So that energy efficiency program's been running for a number of years. But then we've also got what we call the EPC program. Now that was a program that we inherited when we arrived in the department. It was a strategy that had been brought in under the previous administration. And this was about finding a baseline for buildings. So it targets any public buildings over 1,000 square meters or any private buildings over 2,000 square meters that fit certain parameters. They're places of entertainment. And the idea is to go in and get 12 months worth of energy data so that you then can get a baseline for the energy performance of that building. So, and then it gets displayed. So the deadline for that was actually last year, the 7th of December. It had been extended before. But we took a decision that we weren't going to extend it again, despite the fact that we had a very low uptake. And the regulations say that if you don't have an EPC and we come in and do a sort of check, you can get 5 years in jail or a 5 million rand fine. We don't want to be fining people. We don't want to be throwing people into jail because they don't know what their energy performance is. I think it's a bit of a ridiculous thing, but the regulation exists in that way. So we tried very hard as the deadline approached to really drive up the uptake of the energy performance certificate. So far we've done about 10,000 buildings. Our target was 60,000. So we're way off our target. But we're going to review the whole strategy. We're going to look at the regulations. What I'm thinking of doing is getting a roundtable of energy practitioners, the people that are doing these EPCs, to find out from them what the problem is, why it's not working, and how we can better improve what we're trying to do. Because the idea behind the EPC is that you get a baseline. So your building gets graded from A to G, and it tells you what your energy performance is on that building. Once you have that, you're in a position to make decisions around the energy efficiency of your building. So you can decide what you're going to do to then bring that energy efficiency rating up. Now, there's no strategy for that next phase, so we obviously have to look at that as well. But what we're trying to say is that at the end of the day, this is how you can save money. It's not just about us, running a program that seems like a good idea and, government's trying to find other ways to nail the business sector. This is really about us assisting people to find ways to be more energy efficient and save money. There's a lot of financial savings that can be made. The problem again is that a lot of the work you have to do is an upfront cost, and you only realize the potential of that at a later stage. But we do believe that there's merit in doing the EPCs and then looking at ways to bring your energy efficiency ratings up.
As you say, there's a slow uptake to it. Is it because of business is always complaining about cutting the red tape and ensuring that we don't have another element to be compliant with? What is the real impact for them? What's in it for them really to come through? And I've seen such a certificate at the convention center, but for most businesses, how do you then change their mindset into ensuring that they do spend that money? As you say, it's quite an uptake, and the cost of opportunity, whether I've got to have another floor or whether I'm going to have the greener building. What is that like?
Look, the cost of getting the EPC is not astronomical. It's really about the data gathering and then getting the registration through, and that's done by Sanedi, which is one of our entities. So there's no major cost associated with actually getting your EPC. The costs will then come in when you decide that you're going to improve your efficiency rating. So that's when you say, okay, we're going to get rid of all the existing light bulbs, we'll put in LEDs, we'll change the paint we're using, because you can actually use paint that's more energy efficient. We can change the roof tiles. There are a number of things that you can do. So that's really where the cost comes in, but it gets, you get reward for the spend. But I think part of the reason for the slow uptake, first of all, we don't want to terrorize. We want to incentivize. So we want to sell this as something that's going to be beneficial, not something that you're going to get thrown into jail for, because I really do think it's the most ridiculous thing. And I think that was one thing that upset people. Certainly the property owners that we met when we met with SAPOA and people like that, they were like, well, are you going to throw the Minister of Public Works into jail if he doesn't comply, because you're threatening to do that to us? So I think that was one of the reasons. I think people were just like, well, we're not doing this. I think it's a condition I suffer from as well. It's oppositional defiance disorder. When somebody tells me what to do, I don't want to do it. And I think we've got businesses that feel the same way. And I think they feel that, government is trying to overregulate the sector. But I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to build an energy sort of composite that includes energy efficiency. And if we're trying to bring down our energy usage while we're trying to improve the energy availability, we need everybody on board to do that. So this was born out of a need to obviously reduce energy consumption while we were addressing things like load shedding. But it's also now become something that is being driven all over the world, because the less demand we place on the energy system, the longer it'll last, the less people will have to pay, the less the reliance on energy as well. So there are a number of benefits, but as I say, ultimately the cost savings will be worth it.
Yeah. It's quite intriguing, because I remember when we had load shedding, we had so many tips and things of like how you're going to save your energy. The demand side was really, really active. And after we've kind of completed that, now we don't hear anything. How municipalities are communicating these to building owners in their locations?
Yeah, you see, I think again, I was saying to somebody today, government doesn't always have a problem with being government. Government has a problem with communicating what government does. And there's a lot of good work that's happening in government, and we're not communicating it. And this is one of those cases, because we tried really hard last year, and it's the most amazing thing. Just when you're getting sick of saying the same thing, people are hearing about it for the first time.
Sure.
So it doesn't matter how much you communicate, it doesn't always reach the ears of people. So we are going to have to up our comm strategy. We are going to have to make sure that we are communicating effectively. Municipalities need to come on board. We need to find partners. But I think the best way we can do that as well is to partner with the private sector. So this is an opportunity as well for the private sector to come on board. We've launched a new program called the Energy Performance Savings Certificate, which is a program where we're leveraging public funding with private funding to bring people on board to do a lot of work around energy efficiency for them to work with municipalities, to retrofit, to upgrade their systems. Wastewater treatment works, as an example, are very, very big users of energy. So we need to find alternative mechanisms for running those that are not going to be so demanding on energy. And this is an opportunity for the private sector to get involved. So there's public funding, and there's a lot of money of it. There's about 100 million rand available for this program. We're targeting 21 municipalities with the funding initially, and then when we present it to the municipalities, again, these are municipalities that have had access to these grants. They understand the EDSM model, so the energy efficiency demand side management model, and yet when we had our engagement with them, we were still having to explain the process. We were still having to explain the benefits. We were still having to explain the opportunities for them. So there's a lot more work we have to do in terms of education. We have to sell the benefit. We can't just sell, the regulations. And we have to make sure that the uptake is a lot better.
I would hope so, because if they can use or utilize 50% of the grant for such initiatives, surely they can be able to increase that number from 10,000 to 60. What are you looking at if you say, okay, we are moving forward, 20,000 new buildings or more buildings that will participate?
The goal is all the buildings that meet that. And, we've had engagements with some of the banks as well, because the banks are trying to target private homeowners. And incentivizing them through other sort of financial incentives. So, maybe, do something where they cut their interest rates on their loans down if they meet certain energy requirements. So the idea is ultimately to build a culture of energy efficiency in this country, where it's not just the government that's running programs like this, but that people, individuals, as you say, how quickly we fall back into old habits. Now that there's no load shedding, suddenly we're not that concerned with how we're using our energy. And it needs to be a conversation that's ongoing. And we need to be driving. I remember when I was at school, we used to watch videos, well, not videos, God, I was pre-video. We used to watch films on, like I put it in a ZB can. I don't know if you ever remember the ZB can. We used to see those at school. It was drummed into us, you don't litter, or, road safety. And I don't think government does enough of that in terms of making sure that people really understand what the issues are.
All entrepreneurs always smile when you talk about tax incentives. Is there a conversation or thinking about going that line, or similar incentives that you get in the special economic zones?
Yeah, the special economic zones do that, obviously, and we're looking at developing green industrialization hubs so that we're really driving renewable energy within those industrial sectors. But, for businesses outside of those, obviously not. There's no incentives at this stage. There were incentives for renewable energy systems, and we'll look at that going forward. And I think that's why it's important for us to engage with the industry. So your EPC professionals, these are private entities that have come on board to actually deliver the EPCs, the energy performance certificates for these homes, for these buildings. They have encountered a lot of problems and a lot of challenges, and a few of them have reached out to us and said, okay, this is why we're failing here. This is why these people are not taking steps towards this. So I really think it's important that we engage with them. These are the people on the ground. They're the people doing the work. They're the people trying to make a living out of creating these EPCs. And I think those are the people we need to be learning from. And from my perspective, I think not only just what the challenges are, but how they think we should take it forward. Because do we go in and we penalize people who haven't done it? Do we only penalize people that have just failed to do anything? Or do we penalize people that have, half done it? So how do we take this forward? And is penalties the way to go? Or can we find other ways to incentivize, like tax rebates or, or other incentive mechanisms. So I think it's important to have the conversation with the people that are really on the ground doing the work. And from there, we can formulate the strategy for the next round of EPCs, because I think this is something we have to carry on doing. But we had to really draw a line in the sand. You can't just keep on, because there are people that complied, and then there are people that didn't, and then you keep extending for the people that didn't. So you're really rewarding bad behavior, and you're ignoring the people that have really, taken the trouble to do it. So we'd like to have a happy balance. And make sure that we're finding the right balance and the right way to do this moving forward.
Yeah, I suppose driving the benefits or showcasing the benefits, whether anyone wants to use the convention center to say, hey, we are green conscious, we're definitely going to choose venue A versus venue B because they've got great ratings in their energy efficiency. So maybe speaking more about that, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, for too long, we brought in regulations and people don't understand why. So, and I think that's been the hardest part with the EPCs. Why must we do this? And I remember when we first sort of presented it to people, they were saying, well, what is it going to cost me? Because immediately they think there's a cost associated. So it's, okay, you're doing this because you're getting a baseline. That's the important part, because then every 5 years, you reassess and we see whether or not there's been an improvement in your baseline and whether you've managed to make your building more energy efficient. So I think it's really about finding ways to get people to understand why we're doing it, and what the benefits are for them to do it, because it is a benefit. It's not, there's no negatives to becoming more energy efficient. Other than obviously your upfront costs. But as I say, you make that back in terms of the savings that you make. And I think the more we're all pulling together to do this kind of work, the more we can find ways to make this beneficial for everybody. One of the energy professionals said to me, why don't we also look at how we can bring in green energy? So you make sure that the more green you go, because you've got your Green Buildings Council and then you've got your energy efficiency people, and they're actually not the same people. Sure. And why? Sure. So how do we then leverage your greening of your building with your energy efficiency and making sure that you're rewarding people equally for whichever structure they're using, and how we can make sure that things like your renewable energy certificates and carbon credits ultimately can be leveraged so that people can be generating income from it as well. So there's a lot we can do in this space. Sure. And I think what's happened in the past was okay, well, let's do the regulations, and then it was kind of sort of left to its own devices. But I really see the value in what we're trying to achieve here.
Deputy Minister, in every conference, people always talk about the carbon credits, but no entrepreneur seems to be able to say or calculate clearly enough of what has been the impact in their bottom line of the credit from the carbon credits.
Okay, so the carbon credits are a huge issue, because at this stage we're sitting with 3 departments that have different priorities under the sort of Carbon Trading Act. So you've got National Treasury that obviously manage the financial side of it. You've got the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment that are responsible for implementing a section of the Paris Agreement. And then you've got the Department of Electricity and Energy that are responsible for implementing another section of the Paris Agreement. So we're busy at the moment trying to come together to create a consolidated strategy around how we're going to leverage carbon trading as a country. So at this stage, the Department of Electricity and Energy has issued a moratorium on, say, renewable energy projects utilizing carbon credits for income without getting permission from the department, because there's also the question on renewable energy projects, whether or not the carbon credits belong to Eskom because they're the off-taker, or whether it belongs to a generator because they've obviously built the project. We see carbon credits and carbon tax as a mechanism in the future for things like municipalities to generate additional income. If they're running green programs in their municipality, will they be able to then leverage those to bring in additional income into the municipalities? So we really do see that as a mechanism that can be used by businesses and municipalities and government as an additional income source. So we're very excited about that, but at this stage our strategy still needs to be reviewed. For businesses at this point, in terms of the energy efficiency that we're driving, there's the 12L tax incentive, and that was coming to an end but has been extended. It's been extended to the end of December 2030, and that allows private businesses to claim tax rebates on the energy efficiency that they bring in. So whatever energy savings they're making, they can then claim against their tax. So there is an incentive, a further incentive other than your savings on your electricity costs, is also then the tax incentive. So it's really worthwhile to go and get your energy performance certificate, get your baseline, and then put in mechanisms to up the the rating of your building, so that you not only making the savings, but you're also getting the tax incentive.
And any other incentive for municipalities, whether they are inspectors or they are city managers, to say in your KPIs, you have X amount percentage of buildings within your locality that actually saves energy. Are you giving the municipalities
That's
any?
a very good idea. I mean, it's not something I think we'd thought about in terms of driving that incentive from a municipal perspective. But again, municipalities will derive the benefit of the electricity savings. It'll bring down their bulk costs. But yeah, I think it is something we need to be partnering more. One of the things I've found coming into government is that everybody's doing great stuff alone. And one of the things we're trying to do, particularly from our office, is to really find ways to collaborate. So what can we do as a team going forward? Team South Africa. What can we do to bring down our energy, our energy usage? How can we work with other departments? We're working with DPWI as an example. I mean, they're the biggest landlord in the country. The cost for them to do EPCs is astronomical, but they've come on board. They're willing to work with us, and we need to do that with other departments. I know we've had chats to provincial MECs who do public works around how they were saying, the electricity costs are unaffordable, and I said to them, well, the best way to do that is obviously to make your buildings more energy efficient, because then you're going to be spending less on electricity. So these are mechanisms that we can use to assist government in terms of its monthly costs, in terms of its overheads, and then obviously to make sure that the private sector is involved. So private sector comes in, they do the EPCs. It's not being done by government. They're private companies doing those. Private sector can come and be part of the retrofitting and all the other mechanisms that we've got in place. So there's a lot where we can be partnering with the private sector on this, and I think it's something that we can drive as a country.
Yeah, it's great to hear that the energy efficiency demand side is back on the center stage, and then I think also those large businesses do actually utilize a lot of energy. So if you can really start saving from there, you're saving critically in a way that can really have an impact in our energy mix.
No, absolutely. And as I say, I mean, we took the lead on the African Energy Efficiency Facility. So we launched that last year, but we signed that on the sidelines of the G20 last year, on the Energy Transitions Working Group G20. And we partnered with the AU, with AFRIC, and with the United Nations Environmental Program. So the three of us, South Africa and the other two organizations, have partnered on this. So this is about finding funding mechanisms for governments particularly to do things that drive energy efficiency, to retrofit buildings, to drive energy efficiency programs. So we're hoping to see some progression in that program as well. It was very well received. We'll be having annual energy efficiency conferences at the AU, which is great. So this has become a continental conversation. So it's not just about South Africa, but it's about the rest of Africa getting involved in these energy efficiency programs. And it was really interesting to see some of the things that they're doing. I mean, in Nigeria, as an example, the Minister of Housing presented the incredible stuff that they're doing around the houses that they're building that are more energy efficient. So it was fascinating to hear the work that's being done on the rest of Africa and what's possible if we all collaborate, we share ideas, and we find strategies that work for us.
TM, thank you for joining us in BRICS Africa channel. I think we'll follow your milestones and see the next time we have a conversation, you can tell me what's new, what has changed.
Thank you, and thank you for helping us to get our messages out there. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you, because we know that at least somebody's sharing our messages, and it makes our communication so much easier. So thank you so much.
Sure, you're welcome.